This meeting of the Campus Reconfiguration Committee to order, and ask the clerk to take the roll for us.
Carroll.
Here.
Schoonover.
Here.
Manning. Here. Glassburner. Turk.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
And Williamson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
And are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting is properly noticed.
Very good. We have a 13-point agenda before us. To have a motion to approve. Motion by Manning, second by Carroll. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. We also have been circulated minutes from our July 2nd meeting. Anybody have questions, clarifications, corrections on the July 2nd minutes? Hearing none, the chair declares those minutes to be approved as printed. Item 6, public comment. We have any members of the public that wish to address the committee, either here in person or online. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to reports, starting with a campus status update.
I don't think there's really anything new. UW system, UW Platteville did come and get all the computers out. All the personal documents are out of there. So I think that's the biggest update where we're at right now.
Any questions on status?
Anything else that needs to be removed? Are they done? Are they
I think they're done.
They should be done, unless we find something that we haven't seen up till this point. Did drive over the bridge today, it was nice.
Yes, very nice, Rich. Very nice.
All right, item B under reports, Venture Architects update. And we have Corey online with us.
Yes. Good evening. So a couple things we've been working on since the last time we met. One, we're still working on the building assessment for the ambulance building, Pine Valley and the Simon Center. So that's still in progress. But we're also looking at some of the prioritizing some of the phases for the master plan. As you recall, I've kind of presented a few different options. One was at the fairgrounds, and then we had a few options for downtown site. Starting to apply some of those and updating the costs for each one. So I would like to tackle that, as well as some of the other things. So as you know, we've been, you have a couple of concerns as far as priorities. One is the courthouse, the courtroom specifically, as far as the safety and security for the judge, judicial staff, public, as well as any detainees, people in custody. The other one is the jail itself. There's a number of issues with that, but then looking at phasing those opportunities and prioritizing those of what should actually come first. One thing I do want to show tonight, actually I have a number of things I'd like to share. Let's see what I can. And come on. See what I can do here. Not quite wanting to.
We saw a list of files there, Charlie.
Yeah.
Something, you know.
Let's see what I can. Let's try this. All right. So I'm going to go in order. Courtroom is one. Areas of improvements, taking a look at a couple of different items here, as well as UW extension relocation. Anything happens on the campus, relocate those departments, kind of looking at evaluating that if that could be done to some of the vacant space at the ambulance building. Veteran services, looking at relocating that in the Health and Human Services buildings, We usually have that adjacent to like ADRC and Health and Human Services because they do coincide together. They kind of share the same clientele at times, so it's a little bit more efficient. There is available space in that building, so we could relocate that as well. And then I will go into, in addition to the courts downtown, as well as jail and sheriffs, etc., and then possibly new site. So I'm going to start with the courthouse improvements, and I think you should be able to see the plan. So here's the courtroom. Judge's bench is kind of overlaid here. Here's the existing jury room, the judge's bench, etc. So the security of this jury's on in this side, and then the witness is right here. So they're very close together. Obviously, it's a safety, security, as well as the process for the during courts. So we were looking at one of the improvements was basically mirroring a portion of this. So the jury would be next to the jury deliberation room. We would have to relocate the door to get that accommodating, but that would be a little bit more safer. Witness would be located here, and again, this is just kind of one of the options. Judge's bench would kind of rotate on more or less on a 45 on a corner location. Relocate the court reporter so they can still see the witness, jury, as well as the judge. Clerk's table here. One thing noted, we'd raise up the judge's bench to meet the requirements under the Supreme Court regulations to be 21 inches high, so that we can also adjust that as well. With that, judge's chambers would be right off the bench, which then if something does happen, if there's a disruption, the judge does have a easier and quicker way back to chambers for her safety. With that, and just one thing we were looking at, and I do have these itemized out, some of these areas that we could relocate. The jury deliberation does not have any restrooms up in here, so we could remodeling this general area. Bailiff could have a position out here, and then we could have some jury restrooms. Again, it's just a matter of what the county one would like to proceed with, but I do have some numbers to that. Also, again, getting back to the safety and security court commissioner's room, there's one entrance into this room. It's not ideal, so looking at 2 ways out. So you did kind of rotate the room a little bit as far as the layout goes. So the judge and clerk, we'd add a door into the law library for a second way out, and then kind of relocate the witness, court reporter, etc., and then have a gallery out in here closer to the public entrance. So we're looking at that. I'll go back to the budget. So those courthouse improvements as far as getting the judge's bench relocated, getting some new furniture for the jury, because those aren't very comfortable, chairs as well, and then court commissioner's remodeling area, and then the jury room toilets. So what I just explained, you're roughly about $194,000 for those upgrades. Now that's one of them, so that's kind of a high priority just to get the safety and security into the courtrooms. Obviously, there's some other concerns. Anyone coming for accessibility has to come through this way, which is not real clean, so some remodeling, cleaning up. There's some piping and stuff in this location, so I'd like to build a chase out of that way just to clean up this area. It's not ideal, but for what the space that we have to work with, I think it works out fairly well. Any comments on this plan?
Yeah, real quick. So the estimate that you have, are you including any technology, cabling
Yes.
moving, anything like that? Is that calculated into that?
Yeah, so so right now, obviously there's technology underneath here. We're just extending that and kind of reconfiguring the bench, utilizing accessible flooring so that can easily be piped over to that area.
Corey, were you doing anything with the restroom in the judge's area?
Not at this time. If that's something you'd like me to look at, we can definitely add that to it.
Yeah, have you looked at it?
Yes, I have seen it.
Yeah, no, I think, Bob, you've seen it.
Obviously, it's not ideal, especially with you got two doors out,
Yeah.
in and out of that.
Well,
On the
I
public side
mean,
as well.
I would, unless you've got it in another one somewhere. You have more than one of these options or just one option right now?
Right now, this is kind of the only option to looking at this area. We can add the judge's toilet, and I understand that is a concern. I can just add it to this. There's not a lot to work with. Obviously, with the jury deliberation, jury should be on this side. And then just kind of relocating, getting the witness in a proper location for the safety of both, the jury as well as the judge. So that's kind of a more of an ideal location. Wish I had a little bit more width to work with, but we don't in this case, obviously.
No, it looks feasible. I mean, it looks good to me. That would be my only question, would be, if we're gonna go to all that work, we definitely need to do some improvements
Sure.
there.
Is there any value in the gallery size seems large for the number of people that come and see? Is there any space utilization there, reducing that for any value? I'm just throwing ideas out.
Reducing it because it is that stadium seating, it's going to be difficult to do any renovation and then still get access up to it.
Sure.
You definitely can carve out. What kind of restricts this is obviously both of these doors, existing doors are public entrances. Obviously, this is the accessible route. This isn't, but you got public coming up on both sides. So it does kind of impact that. I don't want to say this is wasted space, but when we get to if other options as far as if you do build a new justice facility, this would be ideal as far as this room goes for a new county boardroom. That way you have plenty of spacing for public seating as well.
And the other thing I don't see is a place for the officer, the court officer. They're talking about having a bench or a table or podium there with video, his monitors, and his computer. Where are you anticipating safety-wise that would be?
Yeah, we can locate that as well.
I think
Because that's also movable equipment, like the court reporter's bench right now, that's all kind of movable. We can locate that kind of wherever we need to, and just kind of put it on the placeholders for the tables on both sides.
It's currently up by the single door near the jury room, and the first platform level of the gallery is where they're setting up right now.
Okay.
But I think I want to make sure we identify that so they know we're thinking of that, and that's important.
Other questions or feedback on this proposal? Mr. Carroll?
I would just like to have the file for the arrangement and the budget where we can set him at least.
I got them sent to me this afternoon, so I will share them with you after the meeting.
I just had to say it.
Yeah, I know.
That was my next question.
My only thoughts on it, we've been talking so long about building a new courthouse jail. And what type of life expectancy do you think this will give us before we have to do something else?
Well, obviously it doesn't correct everything because we still have issues with getting people in custody to the courts. And then again, with the public safety, this is, and I hate to say it, you're kind of buying some time here, essentially until you do build a new facility. But working with what we have and just trying to take into consideration as far as what Richland County can afford, this at least starts that correction. by any means, this isn't gonna resolve all issues. Accessibility, that's security still from people in custody and public access. They could be bringing somebody up and somebody could be in these public corridors yet. So, but it does help that's this situation.
The only reason I bring this up, I seen Pine Valley stick a bunch of money in it to be tore down a few years later. Hospital keeps remodeling up here, but they're buying and land and bring up a new hospital. So is this whole thing really about us just being in compliance is why we have to do this?
I think that's a big part.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just said I think that's a big part of it. I think there's a concern every day with how the courtroom is laid out, the vulnerability of the judge right now, and all the other things that Corey talked about. So I do see that even if we don't build a new justice center for another 10 years, I feel like we still need to do something now.
Well, and I want all that safety for everybody too, but if we put all this money in this and it prolongs when we have a new facility, it's kind of a balancing act too.
Reality.
Yeah, it starts to bring things up to regulations, but it doesn't quite meet everything.
It's progress and the size of investment we would have to make here
Yeah.
compared to new construction cost. It gets us moving in that direction, at least without quite as so huge an investment.
Correct.
And that's what I see our number 9 item is really to start talking about how do we prioritize, what do we prioritize, which committee makes these decisions, how do we start to move forward.
Other comments? All right, we can move on to the next one, Corey.
Okay. So what I mentioned is so whatever happens with the campus site, UW Extension is kind of out there right now, so looking at what they're going to be needing. So we did doing the building assessment for the ambulance, this kind of front area is somewhat vague and unused. So just kind of looking at that, bringing them over to the ambulance area, this would actually then make sure the building's kind of occupied and that would help. But for what they need, they could utilize just kind of a small renovation project in this front entrance. Obviously, we know that they might need some training areas. So in that facility, they do have that existing conference room. I would recommend an additional door. Obviously, the others need to approve this, but it was just kind of looking at that. And they could utilize this existing conference. We could shut that off from public, getting back into some of these other staff areas. But it could be utilized off of this other entrance as well when they ever need the conference room. So just kind of looking at that placement, so the campus can proceed with whatever happens with that. I did put a budget to that as well. That does seem a little excessive to me. I think we can reduce that by quite a bit, but right now you're looking at about $500,000 into that. I want to look at that a little bit further and see what we can do for that. The only reason why it's coming up is there's a lot of, the whole ceiling should be replaced. I don't know if anybody's ever taken a look at that. Painting, carpet, etc., all the flooring. If you're going to revitalize this, it should be properly done and not just a couple of walls and doors and such. So that's why it's kind of crept up. Ceilings coming down in some areas, as well as some patchwork for the mechanical systems. Any comments on this?
Mr. Carroll, so how much personnel is that designed for?
I believe we have like 4 to 5 people. You have an open office area, 4 desks, etc., and then we have two offices and some storage area.
Basically, current extension staff.
Other questions? All right, we'll move on.
Okay. Next kind of line item I mentioned, looking at veteran services and kind of get those properly located. Most counties would like that adjacencies. That's kind of what we've been doing all over the state, is one of those, getting those connections, getting those services together where they're best needed. Looking at moving veteran services to health and human services, there's some remodeling, etc. With that, we'd have to relocate some the ADRC in the building, kind of renovate and model that area, as well as a training room, and then kind of closing off some of these areas, indicate a couple of additional doors for security, keeping some of the departments separate. So you're looking at about $648,000 for that. And I just want to briefly kind of go through it. So ADRC is right here currently. There is another entrance into this area, so I think that would be the best suit for veterans. That way they can maintain a sort of private entrance, but still have that accessibility to the health and human services. Just kind of briefly remodeling this area. Then with ADRC, going back into this 900 square feet area, training room would be located and built out this way, and then just getting into this corridor, changing some of these doors, and then adding a couple of doors. Some of this work, however you see fit, maybe the county maintenance, etc., could work on some of those items, but to help save some cost. But that's just an idea of getting the veterans into this building. The way we see it, we feel it's better suited. Any questions on that?
How much stuff, Corey, would be done with the HVAC there? And we have the 10 to 12 furnaces already.
Yeah, there was some additional requirements for that, and I apologize, I don't have it.
Well, that's fine, you can send it by email eventually.
But I can check that out. I'll make note of that, and I'll forward that over to Tricia so she has it as well, so that will answer your questions.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Mr. Carroll?
I guess I'm didn't quite follow. What happens to ADRC?
So they would move to the blue area in the upper left corner, because if you look at that yellow color, that's the rest of the ADRC unit. So right now the ADRC is in two separate spots in the building. They have right in the front entrance, they have an area, and then they have the rest of their staff towards the back. So this would get all of the ADRC staff together.
And there's room to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Blue area is basically storage and empty now.
Okay.
It's where, am I asking Bill to pick up your laptop? There.
And when Corey and I met, it really was about, here's all the things that are needed throughout the county, and start throwing out ideas and start putting things together to then put it into the hands of you guys on how do we prioritize and what do we need to do.
On moving parts.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Other questions? All right, looks like we're ready to move on.
So kind of getting into it, I know I presented some of these ideas before, starting with some numbers. I did update some of the numbers that was presented previously. Obviously, inflation has kind of impacted some of these things. So I just want to go through it for, in addition to the courts, and then looking at firstly the downtown site. So with what I mentioned, courts addition, I'm including courtrooms, clerk of courts, district attorney, and child support. So typically when we do an addition for courts improvements, all of these services are usually grouped together. So that's what I'm talking about, and then we're looking at about $18 million for that addition. So I just want to briefly kind of go through some of these additions and get that. I know we talked a little bit before. So one item, or I should say one option, is if you do a two-story justice center here, having those services in this building.
Thank you.
We can get that connection to the existing courthouse, so that maintains that. With having this Justice Center first, you still have that connection, so people being in custody can get to courts. It's kind of going through that similar path. Doesn't quite, I would say, correct that situation, but it's a foothold that could start. It's a good start for phase one. And I'll kind of go back into the jail portion. In this option, obviously, the jail's over here. We have connection to the existing jail, and then you still would have, whichever goes first, jail or justice, you have that, maintain that connection to those two additions. This one, if I like the Justice Center would be located here, we have that connection, again, to the jail, to the existing jail, and then if the jail comes in second, phase two, you have that connection here to both. If the jail in this option goes first, we have that connection to the existing courtroom, and still in the existing jail. So you still have that either way. It's a good connection to either one that goes first. Additional parking, obviously, would be on this side. One thing I think I mentioned previously, I like this option because you have the Justice Center. I'm gonna say it's right off your main street. You can have a nice grand entrance going into that, and I think that's better looked at. Looking at this, you maintain this previous option, Justice Center back here. You kind of maintain that similar courtroom entrance that you have now, but then a lot of people, it's less pleasing, and having the jail kind of off your main street here. Although a lot of people forget, currently your jail is off that same street, but again, this option is viable, but maybe less aesthetically pleasing than if you had this kind of front and center and then having the jail on the backside. The other option, kind of looking at two, similar condition, either one could go first, Justice Center in the parking lot, jail's still off to the side, and just we're kind of reconfiguring, getting that parking area worked out. So those are the options that we can look at. Any of them is viable. Courts, either way, is kind of a similar situation as far as cost goes. Jail downtown, either one. That's getting a little cost in, and it's based off of what future requirements, just to let you know. So when we size the jail, that is a 30-year projection. When you get into more formal design, there are ways to reduce this as far as phasing even inside the jail and just build out as what you need it. You can shell out areas, etc. It gets a little bit more detailed, but there are ways to reduce this cost into the jail. With that jail options that I just showed you, all three of those, I was not accounting for new sheriff's office in this way. Looking at renovating the existing jail for sheriff's office. So here's the jail area. So this area on this floor would be renovated for new sheriff's office, patrol, etc. So that's what this number is. They're approximately $3 million. Why it's so costly? A lot of those walls are grouted solid. There's a lot of rebar in it, so it's a lot of demo cost into that. But that's also, instead of spending a little bit more money for a whole new facility, you would have that. If you did want jail and sheriff's, it does pop up a little bit more costly. That's why the renovation of the existing jail would be a little cost savings to that. Any questions on any of these options? I would say like this one's, I think you have a really nice formal entrance to the whole complex if need be.
Corey, what's the square footage difference in the jail between the three?
The jail on these, the way I have it accounted for, each one is the same size.
Okay,
So again, when you get into formal design, there are ways to accommodate more current needs. And that was a 30-year projection, approximately 80 beds to this. So if day one, if you're running around 35, there is a requirement by Department of Corrections that you need 85% of your total capacity available, or I should say you only can house to 85%. So it's just rough numbers. Your size-wise for today, you would be looking at more of a 50-bed jail, but there's housing pods that we can accommodate. There's procedures to reduce day one. I'll use this as more of an example, like Trumbull County, we did that. Day one, they opened at 78 beds. They are now, but they can go in the future. All you are doing is adding the beds themselves. The building does not increase or anything, but they're increasing their capacity to 98 already. So those are just one of the few options. You can shell out spaces, like I said. There's other opportunities. We don't get into a lot of the design, but less dormitories are being developed because they can actually cost you beds. What I mean by that is there's proper classifications that the sheriff and his staff had to abide by. And if you have, say, one person under specific classification that can't be housed with anybody else other than that classification, say if you even have a 6-bed dormitory, which is less cost to construct than cells, but then you just lost 5 beds to your facility because you have to house one person into that. So there's different options to do that, and that's why I want to get, this is kind of, this number right now is, I want to say worst case scenario at this point in time, and these are today's dollars, but there are options to get that reduced when you get into the more formal design. Hopefully that helps or answer the question.
Other questions? Mr. Carroll?
I guess I didn't understand what all was in the Justice Center. I just assumed the sheriff's office would be in that. What all's in that?
That's into this area. So essentially you'd have housing kind of, I'm just using this as a reference in this area. You'd have a vehicle sally port. You have jail support. What jail support means the jail administration's staff services. You have pre-booking. You have a booking area. Booking area size for typically when we size a booking area as far as quantity of receiving cells, it's usually 10% of your total capacity. So if you're 80 beds in your jail, we have 8 receiving cells. You also will have food service and laundry into this area. It includes medical area for nurse exam, some of pharmaceutical stores, etc. You also have public visitation. It's usually a small area, attorney visitation, etc. into this area. So that's all that's included, but the sheriff's office, patrol, etc., detectives, evidence would be maintained into the existing building with this.
And what about the 2-story Justice Center? What all's in that?
So all the courtrooms, so we have 2 courtrooms size right now. Judicial suites, so all the judicial staff. You will have district attorney's office for his staff, child support, and clerk of courts are sized into this 2 stories right now. All other county government would maintain into the existing facility.
So at this point, we're not really saying how we would utilize those current spaces in the courthouse.
As far as those, no, one would be, like I said, the existing courtroom. We'd utilize that for county board. Just starting to help address some of the accessibilities and the exiting issues that you currently have in your existing facility.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so that's it for that one.
And then you've seen this from the last time, if you went to a whole off-site new facility, and then just utilizing this, because this was our last site that we evaluated, as far as a whole new facility, future out here, this, as far as just the Justice Center, and I caution with doing government, just a center, so that would be the courts, the district attorney, clerk of courts, child support, sheriff's office, and jail. A whole new facility out there would be approximately 86 million. If you do, looking at a whole new government center of basically tearing down everything that you have downtown, moving out to a new site, you will be pushing about $100 million. And I caution with that, obviously, because I know that's quite costly, and I'm just kind of looking at more reasonable, that's a little bit more feasible for Richland County. Any questions, concerns, anything you would like me to take a look at further or additional?
Corey, would the new site costs that you cite here be similar, whether we were looking at that site you just talked about or the other industrial park site?
Yeah, either one I think would be similar. The grading, any site improvements would be similar in cost. I know the industrial site, I believe, wasn't there, was it an Indian burial ground potentially on that site? That was a concern. And some of the stormwater.
Yeah, that was a concern.
It should have water and sewer nearby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just floodplain close to it.
Yeah.
Very close to it.
All right. We have no other questions then. Thank you for sharing all this with us,
Great.
Corey.
All right. Thank you.
On or off, Clay? You can see the battle out there.
We're getting a little comfortable with them off, I don't know.
Rod, you still there? Yeah.
All right,
Camera,
item C on
camera sees in
reports.
the dark.
Update on assessment of specialized items in the campus buildings.
I think the schools have been busy getting items, taking items. It's been really nice. They've been very excited. Ithaca Weston have been taking a lot of furniture, musical instruments. There's very few of those left. I think one of the big items we still have is the grand piano. And I think that's the next thing. We just need to reach out to start with Richland Center and reach out to the school districts to see if any of them are interested in making that investment.
It's an investment.
We've moved a lot of furniture out. Of course, there's, county had a chance to go in and take pieces of furniture, so there's cast-off county furniture out there that we'll need to dispose of at some point. But things are getting more empty out there. We've seen a lot of material move into hands of folks that will be able to use it between the library and the schools that have been out there. So the Ithaca schools will be coming back again for some more furnishing pieces. So they're very excited about that, be able to utilize a number of things. Platteville did come through and clean out all the junk computers. So they're gone out of the way, and that's nice to see. There are several pieces of artwork and things out there that we want to see preserved somewhere. We talked with Brandon Federley a little bit about that. The foundation has mentioned something about it, so we'll try to work with them and see how we can get those into the hands of people who will preserve them and keep them available for the members of the public to see. So, any questions on that? All right, and then item D, campus redevelopment project update.
So we will have our kickoff meeting with SEH on August 12th. We're going to have it that morning, it's in the morning that day. So if you are interested in attending it, this afternoon, If you're interested in attending, I will certainly send you the invite and the link. Okay. I'll send it to the committee.
And it's right here, the meeting is over.
3 o'clock. It is actually, I believe it's online. It's a Teams meeting. Yep. So
What
3
time
o'clock
is
on the
the
12th. 3 o'clock on the 12th. I will send that invite out to you.
Any other updates? Okay, questions on that? Then we will move on to item 8 on our agenda, discussion and possible action, UW redevelopment grant application.
So one of the things that Steve has requested is that we really lay out the proposed use of the funds and the dollar amount. So I have created that thus far. The first item is the bridge on the west side of the campus, which is around the $600,000. The Simons Tennis Court renovation, which is the $150,000 match that would be needed. The campus redevelopment project, and we entered into the agreement with SEH, but the engagement and open house wasn't a part of that, so that is an additional $4,950. And then the highway department did give us a quote for the road to Hive Drive to Simons, and that's $75,000. So items that we talked about, what we didn't add, were the parking lot at Simons, because I think we decided we wanted to hold off in case if there was construction and we didn't want to tear that up, and then really to separate utilities if that's something that's needed in the future. So those are things that we can look towards in the future. But we do have some people here from the grant. If you guys want to introduce yourself and kind of give us an overview, that would be great.
Sure. My name is Ela Conde. I'm your Regional Economic Development Director with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, WEDC. So I handle Southwest Wisconsin. That includes Richland County. And so I'm working with Trish regarding the branch campus redevelopment grant that our office is hosting. And my big boss, who is here, that handles that particular grant, is here to go into more details.
Yeah, Mike Lord, and I'm also with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and I run what's called the Business and Community Division, and this particular program is housing that division, so happy to be here.
So any particular questions that you have regarding the grant, so we're in the process of putting the application together, so all of the costs associated with what you want covered would need to go into this grant application, and we need to accept these applications. We need to accept all of these costs into our application so that we know what is being paid for, and then once we give the approval to it, then you guys, I think it's reimbursement, right, or do we handle the money?
No, it's
all reimbursement.
And there can't be past costs, like we would have to get, you'd have to get to the, through the application period so that, you can't be reimbursed for things you've already paid.
So one of the things that was the bridge, we were under the understanding that we could do that and get reimbursed for that. Are you saying that we can't?
Well, if you've already paid for it, you can't if it's not paid. And it's an eligible type of expense.
It's an eligible expense. But in terms of we have to finish the application to illustrate that this is going to be an expense, this is going to be expense, it needs to be approved, and then yes, it can be reimbursed.
Definitely more conversation about the particulars to sort through that. Okay. Questions about grant?
Just one, say we have 6 different items that we're going to group into this grant, and then down the road we find another, something else we want, can this be added to it, or is this just a one and done type of thing where we'll help you with this 6 projects, but if another one pops up, then no?
I think we haven't gotten that far with any campus yet, so I don't know the answer, but in theory, our grant programs allow us, if they haven't finished yet, we can do what we call an amendment and add something in. And if they have finished, then it's a little more complicated. We might have to do a second application. And right now, the statute just reads that no one campus can get more than $2 million in total. So that would be the other limitation, is you can't go more than that. But right now, everyone, there's only 2 applications ahead of you, and they both are just going right to the 2 million and found expenses. And really grouped as sub-projects, so, they have broader plans than the 2 million, but what they've done is they carved out and called that their sub-project and are doing it for somewhere, whatever dollar amount that particular project costs. And, there are no matching funds, which is common with a lot of ours, but this one there is not. So your project just needs to show that you can complete it. And so that's why some of them have carved out sub-projects, because then they only have to show that they're completing, say, $2.1 million. They may have plans to do another $5 million, but they're calling the project they applied with us for just that. And then they just have to show that they have the money to, the extra $100,000 to complete the project. So there's a lot of flexibility in this program compared to many. But it's a good question. We just haven't come across it yet where somebody said, we found something new. We always have the ability to amend what we call our budget. So if you said we thought we were doing a bridge and now we're going to, same dollar amount, but we're going to use it to do windows or electrical. I mean, we have to go through that amendment process, but I mean, that's not uncommon for many of our community programs to need a change in swap out items.
So what's the time frame? Is there an expiration on this? Is it a 2-year, 5-year?
Well, once you apply, it's a 2-year contract.
Once you apply, so from the application date, it starts clock.
Application contract date. So,
Contract date, okay.
So, and again, we have some flexibility if we think we need longer than that. That's what we've been doing with them so far. There's nothing in the statute that says it has to be, that it can't be longer. The only things in the statute time-wise are 90 days after you're done and closed out, you have to write up a report on the benefit to the county and send that to the legislature. That's about the only sort of time reference that's in the statute is within 90 days at the end of the project. And again, project may be something smaller than what you're thinking, your community is thinking the project is.
I think one of the questions that we talked about when we talked about it a little bit earlier today, but if you could share, what is the expectation as far as community engagement for the project?
Sure. I think, we think what you're doing with community engagement is great, but that we don't need that level of standard upheld for our underwriting process. We just asked that you show us a letter of support from the city or town that the facility is located in, not a financial letter of support, just a moral support. And that's for us enough that we know that you've talked to you as a county have talked to your municipalities that are directly impacted by the facility and that they're on board. So that would be the way we document that community support aspect of the statute.
Once the contract is signed and we switch governors, switch fiscal years, can it be removed?
I don't believe so. I'm not an expert at that, but it was passed. We've already gone through one new biennial since this has come on, and the money was given to us and it's housed. We've got it housed outside. We're a quasi-government agency, but I guess I don't know enough about how something like that could be pulled back. So the funds have been dispersed. They're not.
They're allocated somewhere.
Yeah, they can't. So we can't reallocate them by statute, and I guess I don't know enough about if the legislature could pass a new law. Maybe if they could do something. I guess I'm not an elected official, so I couldn't answer that. But I mean, this seems like it's comfortable. And I will say, your campus was specifically called out in the statute by name, so we are required to hold 2 million of our 20 for your community. So you don't have to worry about the other campuses using up the money. That is another aspect that 4 of the campuses were called out for.
Regarding timelines, if we have seen amendments go out up to a year. So let's say that you've got the 2-year time period. Once the application is in, you've got these eligible expenses that you can put in there. Say you're a year and a half into the project and something is going to be coming off of that and something else needs to be changed, but it's going to take another year to get done. We can add a year to your contract. So just giving you timelines, it is flexible.
Other questions?
So what is our next step? We need to come up with that priority list to start this application? What's our next step?
So the application is already started.
Okay.
Hila has shared it with us, and there's quite a bit of it filled out. It really is fine tuning what it is that we want to use these funds for, and then submitting it for their approval.
And then we don't even provide, we just have to provide a general cost.
Budget with cost estimates, so
Budget with cost estimates.
that's probably something that's slowed down a couple of their communities. They have to get at least one, cost estimate for, like, we have one committee doing electrical work. They may not choose that electrician, but they needed to show that the number they were using had some basis and, where they
Yeah,
got.
just make up a number.
Yeah, right.
So
So
how much
it's a budget, but we do need at least some documentation.
How much of this 2 million is already earmarked?
Out of this list, under $1 million so far.
873 according to this here, but that doesn't mean we're doing everything that's on the list, man. Some of the things are locked in, hopefully.
Mr. Carroll?
Well, it sounds like we need to, for example, on separate utilities, we need to work up some numbers on that.
Yes.
And a few other things and get that ball rolling.
Absolutely.
And their consultant fees can be included in this?
Yeah, if you haven't already paid for them, yeah, absolutely, that's a possibility. RFP expenses, planning expenses, demolition is a popular one with many of your fellow campuses. And that oftentimes uses up a significant amount of money too. So really anything that will advance the property site for the economic benefit of the common citizens. So very broadly, really.
So that's, I guess, what I need from the committee is I'll get estimates on those last two items. What else is it that you want me to look into, get estimates on? One thing that I did think about is, I don't think that the road builds in a sidewalk between the school and Simon, so I don't know if we also want to try to put a sidewalk in with the road or not. It's just another idea that I thought of in the last couple of days.
There's like a trail that goes through there, but if the road winds up going where the trail is, then.
Well, we have a road there, I would certainly think we would need sidewalk to proceed.
I would think so, yes.
We already have 2 of the buildings we're pretty sure yet we're going to demo. That would sure eat up that 2 million pretty fast.
It would. And that's, we could look at trying to find out what we'd be looking at money-wise for that.
If you like, I could get that Robinson Brothers to come and give us an estimate of that.
Sure.
That would be good for planning purposes.
I'll get somebody to come up and then.
Any other things you can think of that we'd like to explore putting on the list? We don't necessarily have to know by the next meeting, but we can review what we've got so far at the next meeting, and if there's anything we want to add to it from that point, but within the next month or so, it'd be nice to get it wrapped up so we can get all that info into our application.
Anything that you think you might need for, environment, if you think you'll need an environmental study later on, or a flood check, or anything related to real estate survey costs, anything like that, you can list now and, and then when you're ready, do it. But and demolition might be an easy one too, to put in there, just say you may not use it for 18 months, but you've got that in the budget as an expense. So.
Can we estimate what utilities are going to be?
You would just need some kind of justification for the estimate, but.
Utilities and heat coming here.
Heat for the next 2 years, whatever?
Oh, no, we can't do the actual cost of heating. We could do a repair of HVAC or something like that.
Or repair, but not
Not
monthly.
operating costs, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was
Sorry.
wondering. Try anything I can.
Mr. Carroll?
When are we supposed to hear back from SEH on some of the stuff there?
So that kickoff meeting is the 12th.
But it's a kickoff, I'm just saying, they may identify some things that we might want to spend some money on.
Yeah, and that's, they were talking 3 months to get their work done?
Oh, it's a 9-month
9
project.
months. So, yeah, to me, yeah,
If we're not potentially earlier than that, they might have an idea of the investments we want to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think what these guys are saying is if we put a plan together, and 6 months later, we say, we want to pivot and go down, we don't want to do demolition costs, we want to do this, I can just do a grant amendment, turn it in, get it submitted, and go from there. So we can shift
Yeah, we
it.
try to minimize those, both for your and I's work, because it's a new application. We just, again, we're verifying the same types of thing. Is the community still on board with the change? Is the, all those things go? I mean, I would say we have the ability to do it. We don't try to, you know, we try to get as close as possible with the original application as we can.
So Tricia will track down some numbers to add to our list. We'll review it again on our next meeting. So, go ahead.
What do you see in other communities or other people, what are some of the costs? You said demo is one, something that.
Yeah, so we have one community that is going to just demolish the campus, and will then they also have built-in, I think actually the demolition is going to use up all their $2 million, but they're doing a consulting firm who's going to do an RFP for housing only. So we're just turning the site into housing. But that is a unique site in the sense that it's inside of a city of 70,000 people, and it's served by bus lines and roads, you know, so it has a lot of interest already from housing developers. Another community is moving their county campus to the site, and, you know, building a community center and the Health and Human Services, and I think the county administration building. Another group is the camp, UW's not closing 100%, so they've got UW to move to some of the buildings, and then they're going to use their $2 million to make separate HVAC and sewer and utilities to the 2 buildings that are empty, and then they're going to market those 2 buildings to, I think, a secondary school type operation. But they can't do that right now because it's all mixed together with one. So but that's also very expensive to separate all the utilities, and also they need to they have to create new road and parking lot access, and so they're basically taking the part that's vacant and just getting it ready for rental or sale, either one. And then another community wants to sell, and I would say their buildings are in a different level of condition. They want to sell to a school, probably not a college, but a secondary school, and they need almost $2 million to bring it up to code, primarily electrical related, and they're using all for that. So those are the ones that I have so far. A lot of the other communities are still doing an RFP with a consulting firm to, you know, get community feedback, and 2 or 3 of the campuses are still operating, and so the counties are just kind of waiting right now, not doing anything. I don't know if that gives you some color.
Nice idea what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Let's move on to item 9.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action, prioritization of future utilization of county facilities.
So as Corey talked about, there's a lot of projects on the horizon for us. So I think the question comes is this the committee that starts to make these decisions? Should it be a different committee? And then to start talking about how do we set those priorities.
A while back, we did go back to the board and ask, okay, county board, what do you want our focus to be? Do you want this committee to handle both things? And at that time, they said yes. I think things are separating enough now where we have 2 separate pathways happening here. We have the development of the campus property happening, and then we have addressing our county space needs, both of which seem to be quite significant projects that aren't necessarily in common. And so my personal thought is maybe it's time for us to have a separate committee that looks at the county space needs and future building stuff separate from redevelopment of the campus.
But it certainly is 2 separate items altogether.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, initially, we thought there was possibly more overlap, but I agree, I'm starting to see
Yep,
an unlikely
I agree as well.
scenario there.
It's going to be, we here can't handle both of them.
I guess what we do is
Building
recommend, yeah. So we probably recommend to executive that we look at forming like an ad hoc committee, similar to this committee, but a different one, that would be tasked specifically with the county building space needs and future decisions on that. And
they also have two different timelines.
Yes,
I mean, but we need to act on the campus
Yes.
with urgency.
Well, and we're spending our time dealing more now with Corey on this building
Instead of.
instead of
Right.
that out there, so
yep.
unfortunately, but that's, it is what it is.
Now, part of that 2 million could be paying him, correct? Because he's looking at all this, I can see why, what he's doing here, but do you think what time he spent for the campus could be percentage of? If you can separate, that'd be the problem, how do you separate?
For something moving forward, probably, but we'll have to go through in a little more detail with them about what we can count and what we can't, so.
One thing, I mean, I do think it would be nice to have that separate ad hoc committee. As somebody who attends many of the committee meetings, we talk about it in executive, we talk about it here, we talk about public safety, we talk about it at Public Works. And so it would really be nice if there could be one committee that really starts taking the lead on those long-range plans.
And that's something that will continue likely far beyond the campus redevelopment, so.
It's kind of the name of long-range planning.
I see a chair in the
So, yeah, if you're okay with that, then we'll make a proposal to executive that we create another ad hoc committee, which will have to go to the full board for approval. And get a group going to deal specifically with courthouse, jail, all that stuff.
Sounds good.
And of course, there will be public engagement we need to do on that side of a whole different variety than what we're doing with campus too, so. All right, item 10, discussion and possible action to set future meeting dates. As we're pulling stuff together for this application, it seems like 2 to 3 weeks should be our next window to meet.
Yeah.
I think sooner than later.
Yeah,
Especially with the whole timeline starting with that.
so we were looking out 2 weeks.
2 weeks would be the 14th. Public Works does happen at 4 o'clock on that day, so I don't know if we would want to try for after that or do it on Wednesday the 13th.
To a Thursday this time.
Yeah. Here would be my request though. I'm on vacation the week of the 4th, so I really wouldn't be able to get a lot of stuff done if we had a meeting by the 13th.
Okay.
Could we go the week of the 18th?
Let's see, the 19th is Portland County Board, isn't it?
Yeah.
We won't have anything that needs to go to that. 20th?
20th.
Wednesday, or what do we got, anything on the 21st? Probably Southwest Tech, I think.
I'm showing committee on committees meeting on the 21st.
Yeah.
You'll be there too.
No, I don't have.
20th,
20th?
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock?
That's great, thank you.
So our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 20th at 5 o'clock. Agenda items for that meeting? You know, we want to look at our grant application list of stuff.
Yeah, we've got the village
Yes.
shopping list.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a question we can answer prior to that.
Yep.
Now,
A big one.
Yep.
yeah.
Do we have any correspondence?
None to report.
No correspondence to report. All right, and I'm looking for the motion to adjourn. Mr. Manning, second by Mr. Frank. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.